I picked up this pair of nasty nightstands off of Facebook Marketplace, and you won't believe their transformation, so follow along. I love finding older pieces and giving them an update and modernizing them, but sometimes you just want a quick, easy flip, so that's what I'm going to do with these. I started out by giving these a good cleaning, and you want to do that even before you sand or anything if you are going to be doing any sanding, because you don't want to push any dirt and grime down into your wood grain, and it also can really gum up your sandpaper. So you want to make sure you clean first, and what you use is kind of going to depend on what type of paint or stain that you're using. But on these, I'm going to be painting the entire thing, and I'm using Heirloom Traditions all-in-one paint, so I am using their Surface Prep liquid here with a scrubby sponge to kind of etch the surface a little bit so that it gives my paint something to stick to. With this particular Surface Prep, you don't have to rinse it off or anything, just wait a few minutes till it's dry and then you're good to go. With this paint, you do not have to completely sand your piece, but the caveat to that is that if you have any raised areas or any finish peeling off, old paint or stain flaking off, or pieces of veneer that aren't smooth or anything like that, then you do want to go ahead and give it a light sand in those areas. For the color, I wanted to do a neutral grayish color, and I love the color putty, although it is pretty light, so I wanted to mix with some other things I had to try to make something a little bit darker. And I have a color called Cappuccino, however sometimes it pulls a little bit pink, so I'm going to mix some things up and see if I can't get a good darker neutral grayish. So I added a little bit of putty, which is a very light grayish color, to lighten it up, and then I'm going to add just a tiny bit of a green. This is Envy, to help take that pink out. So let's see what happens. Of course, this is how I get myself in trouble. I make these mixes without measuring, and then I sometimes start to run out of paint, and then that's a problem. But it is what it is. So I think I'm gonna go a little bit lighter. So let me add a little more of the putty. And I don't know if you can tell in the video how much more pink it looks here in the can. The Cappuccino does. But I'm sure there's an easier way to do this, but this is what I have on hand, so. Looks pretty good. So I'm gonna try this out and let's see what we think. So I haven't used this round foam applicator in a long time, but I wanted to try it at least for the first coat on these nightstands. So normally you would put this on top of your can of paint and flip it over, but mine has so much crusted dried paint, I don't want to take a chance of getting that on my piece, so I just used a stick to glob some on here. But look at how fast this goes. The one downside is that it does absorb a lot of paint, so I don't know if I'm really wasting as much as it seems like, but for fast application, you cannot beat this. And it does really well on the curves and stuff too, and even little edges. At least for a first coat. Like I said, I don't think I will attempt this for my final coat, but look how quick that was. All right, hopefully this is more of the color that I'm going for here. So I'm happy with the color, it's looking good. So I will go ahead and get the next coat on everything. And then for my final coat, I'm going to attempt using my sprayer. And I haven't used it a whole lot yet, so I'm trying to get more comfortable with it. But then I also have to wait for perfect weather, not too windy, not too cold. So it's been a little bit of a challenge. I don't have a tent for it yet or anything, but I'm going to give it a try with these. I used the pre-taped plastic to tape off the sides and the top of the drawers so I didn't get paint on the inside. One thing I learned is to space the pieces out a little bit because I did get some overspray, so you want to be careful of that. Also, depending on what type of paint you're going to use, you will likely have to add some water or something like Floetrol to let it flow through the sprayer a little bit easier. If it's too thick, then it won't work right. With this paint, it does have top coat built into it, but sometimes on a piece like this that might get a lot of use on the top, I do like to go ahead and add at least a coat or two of extra protection. So I'm using Varathane's water-based poly, and then I'm adding just a touch of my paint color just so that it will help really blend it in seamlessly. And I am using the sponge applicator again. I tried this on my last piece and it worked really well for the top coat, so that's what I'm going to use here. Luckily, we have 2 restore locations near us from Habitat for Humanity, and one of them has a whole extra warehouse out back with building supplies and things like that. So they actually sometimes have brand new in the package hardware, and that's what I found here is kind of a nice coppery or like a champagne bronze color, and I thought it would go really well with this grayish paint. I always like to add some peel and stick wallpaper to the drawers just to keep those nice and clean. And on this one, I figured out what size I needed. After the first one, then I used that paper backing that came off to as a template to cut the rest of them, and then I laid them out flat with the drawers sitting on top for a little while because it just makes it extra challenging to put in when it keeps curling up on you. So if you have time to do that, that will help. One thing I have noticed is that the thinner that the paper is, the easier it is to tear it while you're trying to reinstall it. Either I've had some where I've put my finger through it and made a hole, or some where I try to peel it up where there's just too many bubbles and then re-stick it and it rips when I peel it up. So from now on, I'm going to be keeping track of which brands are better than others and make sure I try to get more quality papers to work with. Here's a reminder of what it looked like before. And here's Bear to show you the after. Be sure and check out my other video on how I transformed 2 mismatching nightstands into a set. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. Thanks for watching.